Okay, Janette, we've got some more interesting items on the table, and these are produced by the Manchester Guardian, but they're not actually the newspaper itself. They're special supplements, aren't they?
That's right, Lee. So here we've got the Manchester Guardian Civic Week from the 2nd of October 1926. And as you say, it's a special supplement. This supplement is very much about celebrating Manchester and its civic culture. So it's not only about its industry, but it's also about its culture too, and the sport, the literature, the music, all the many things Manchester does. And I think for Manchester, with it being the world's first industrial city, always had to fight for that kind of reputation. You know, we're much more than cotton. We have art galleries and we have sports teams.
Libraries.
And libraries indeed,
It's a bit like a forerunner of the Manchester International Festival or Manchester Day, isn't it, really?
It certainly is, yeah.
That civic pride, civic week. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the cover of this, really striking green and orange. Very much of its time, that 1920s style, isn't it? What kind of things can we see in the picture on the front?
Well, you've got the mills. Just look how many chimneys you can see there. What I like is the way they take great poetic license with sort of pulling everything together. And right in the centre, and what symbolises civic culture better, you've got Manchester Town Hall. Yes. And the other liberties they give is the way in which the ship canal seems to be going right in front of all the buildings. So you've got, ships gliding past the Town Hall, which obviously couldn't happen.
Yeah, it's almost like there are 3 lanes to it as well there, isn't it? It's like a dual carriageway or triple carriageway of canal. What can we find inside this particular supplement then?
Well, it's full.
A look inside. Carefully does it?
Very carefully. Yeah. So as you might imagine, as much as the Guardian has been very generous in giving these supplements out, a lot of it is funded by adverts. So you get a really good snapshot of the kind of industry that you have in Manchester at the time. So as you might expect, there's lots of textiles.
Yeah, but there's so much more than textile. It's not just about Cottonopolis, is it? There's all sorts of things in there.
So there's one page, which I'm going to struggle, here we are, that just sort of gives you a real sort of sense of the range of things that's going on. So you've got, the textiles, the dyers, but you've also got iron casting, you've got insurance companies. A bit later on, we'll see a beautiful illustration of the Cooperative Wholesale Society. And the other things it has in there is a bit of sort of historical background on Manchester, its sort of history and its fine civic buildings.
So it's overall growth as a city, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
The Industrial Revolution's covered.
It is indeed.
Politics.
A modern city, lots of brilliant photographs.
These, we could be here all day looking at these, are fantastic. Is there a way that people can access more of this than we can probably talk about today?
Absolutely, the whole of it has been digitised, turned into a book reader. So if you go onto our website and you look for the Manchester Guardian, you're able to find the whole thing, And look, what I've just found, the John Rylands Library.
Well, that's a familiar building, isn't it? Well, not so much traffic at the front there.
Quite different. But what I really want to show you is the sort of the colour bit in the middle. So there's a few pages. So here's the Cooperative Wholesale Society on Balloon Street, which is still there today.
Balloon Street, yes. Is that's the co-op still there today?
It is, yeah. And this is the bit that I particularly like. So it's a map of the city in 1926. It's very sort of lavishly coloured with coat of arms, with very interesting. You can see the ship canal really clearly. Trafford Park is just covered with factories and chimneys and the docks.
Oh, hang on a minute. There's one I like. The Ghost of Mr. Stevenson and His Rocket. I presume that's the Liverpool Road Railway Station. Yeah, we like that one. You could use this as a tour guide map today. It's so clear and the colours are so vibrant, aren't they?
You certainly could, and many of the buildings, of course, will still be here.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So.
Wonderful. So if we move down to the next item we've got here. So it's not just about Manchester. This is a supplement produced by The Guardian, and it's linked to a national event.
It certainly is. So if you think about it from a Manchester Guardian business point of view, if you're going to produce lavish supplements, lots of people are going to flock out and buy your newspaper, so you might end up acquiring new readers. So yeah, a very important national event. So this is the coronation of George VI. This number comes out on the 3rd of May 1937, so that's a good 9 days before the actual event.
Okay.
And it's very much designed as this, patriotic supplement that everybody should collect and keep and show to their grandchildren. It's very...
So there is, I suppose, an element of sales about this, isn't there? Like drawing more readers in by producing these special editions.
Definitely, and as you see with Civic Week and with this supplement, there's plenty of adverts. So if you're interested in, business history or particular firms, you can find some really rich information here. But the bit I really wanted to show you is it's sort of a discussion of what the role of the monarchy is. Now, I don't know about you, Lee, but I've been watching The Crown, and I found myself gripped, surprisingly. The Crown is the defender of unity and liberty.
It could be written for this.
It could indeed. Yeah, so if you look at some of the text about what is the role of the monarch, it says here, "The life of the monarch is a life of stern and arduous duty in which public considerations overrule private convenience."
Oh, that's very pertinent, isn't it?
Very pertinent, yeah.
For the Crown series, but in real life, I think.
Yes, yeah,
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Great. Should we move on to the third one now, then?
We certainly can.
And this one, again, it's a little bit like the first one. The colour scheme on the front is fantastic. The blues and the oranges come out. And it seems to me it's suggesting all the things that are being tied together as Manchester grows as a city.
Yes, this supplement was produced to mark 100 years of Manchester Corporation. Now, Manchester Corporation, as it extends its power over the centenary, is involved in so many more aspects of life. So you can see here electricity, water, transport, all the trams, gas, markets. And what I particularly like is the way in which the town hall, our old favourite, is there centre stage, really. It's right at the heart of it. This is the...
It's iconic. You recognise it in silhouette straight away.
You certainly do, and that's the heart of the local government. So again, very, very beautifully produced, and you can imagine people would rush out and buy a copy and keep for posterity.
Yes, I suppose it would be a real collector's item. People just want to have that, wouldn't they? Really?
They certainly would, yeah. Yeah, and what's lovely about it as well is that it's got lots of photographs of the different parts of the city, but again we've got the adverts.
Yes.
So a lot of these supplements were funded by the advertisements, and it was an opportunity for I suppose local businesses to promote themselves, but also to be part of this civic celebration, to sort of show their local patriotism as opposed to national.
Yes, yeah. I noticed just on the inside page there's a picture of the city growing and its boundaries and some areas around the edges from Cheshire, but it's recognisable today, isn't it? Like the modern city, the metropolitan city growing.
It certainly is, and if you look at the key, you can see the areas that were known as Manchester in 1838, so that's the kind of hash bits there.
Yes.
And you can see that it's ever increasing, encroaching upon Cheshire, and much more like the Greater Manchester area we know today.
So people watching in today will see that from Moston you've suddenly been included here, haven't you? All the dates: 1890 Newton Heath, Withington 1904, so all joining the growing city. My eye's drawn to this page where we've got an advert for Lewis's department store. And there's a soldier arriving back through the door from the Crimean War, and it seems like, well, the minute he gets back, he's obviously going to want to go shopping at Lewis's. So
where else would you go for your outfit?
Yeah, so but again, it's like the local and the national being tied together, isn't it? The paper growing as a national entity, yes.
And I suppose at this point, the Manchester Guardian was a national newspaper. It was very much read everywhere. It was read around the world as well.
Yeah, as we're going to find out very shortly. We'll move on to the next section. Okay, we've got this rather stunning and large black and white photograph showing Manchester yesteryear, Janette. Could you tell us what's going on in this picture?
Yes, certainly. So we're actually outside the legendary Cross Street. So this is number 3 Cross Street, which was the headquarters of the Manchester Guardian, and it was there, I think, from about 1841 to 1970.
Right.
So quite a few years.
Yes.
And the crowd are gathering, and to begin with I was utterly mystified by this photograph because we didn't have any dates, we had no information, but what we do have is a scoreboard up here.
Oh.
And I asked our wonderful imaging team whether they could just slightly rotate the scoreboard just to make it easier to read.
Yeah.
And it became clear what it was about. So you can see Con, Labour, Lab, Lib.
Oh,
elections.
elections.
Elections,
Okay.
it certainly is. And it says at the top, state of the parties, and it tells you the gains and the losses. And I thought, well, maybe this can help with dating it. So what do you do when you don't know something? You turn to Wikipedia.
Of course.
The big breakthrough I had was that you could calculate the number of seats there were. So by adding up the numbers, I worked out that there were 625. And then Wikipedia showed that there was only one election where Labour was losing, where there were that number of seats, because the constituency numbers do change over time.
Yes.
So we're able to date it very precisely for the 25th of October 1951. It's also got a clock here, and I think it's about 3:15.
Ooh, what
so
a moment in time that is.
so we went from not knowing anything about this photograph to being able to say exactly, you know, what date it was and at what time.
I wonder if any of our audience was there at that moment. So really what you've done here, showing a bit behind the scenes of what you do, is a bit of detective work to put all this together to date a photograph where you didn't have a date in the first place.
I mean, it doesn't usually work out like this. We have hundreds and thousands of images in our collections where we frustratingly don't know who it is and what date it is or where it is. Yeah.
It must have been very satisfying to nail that one.
It was, very much so.
Yeah. Can I ask you, the building, very iconic obviously in our story today, but does it still exist?
Alas, it doesn't. It was demolished to make way for the Arndale. So if you're thinking about roughly where it was today, it would be where the Boots is at the bottom of Arndale. Fortunately, as part of the 200th celebrations, they've just put a blue plaque there. So if anyone wanted to find it, you could have a little potter down to the Arndale and work out where Cross Street was.
That's a nice touch, isn't it, really? Yes. Was it, I mean, obviously people gathering in the street round a bus stop, they're obviously not waiting for a bus, they're waiting for results. Was this a common thing in an era before the digital age?
Yeah, I mean, the newspapers were the only place where you could get your news. You didn't have a mobile phone, you didn't have the internet. I don't know if you can see up here in the corner, we can just see the backside of a gentleman whose job it was,
oh
a backside, yes.
Oh yeah, I can see him
in
now.
the polite term. So there's a man there crouched precariously on this ledge. I can only think he's come out of the window, and his job would be to wait for the telegraph, the news from London, to be either phoned, probably phoned at this point, and then he changes the scores, so it literally is breaking news.
Wow.
And for everybody waiting here, this is the quickest and easiest way to find out who's won the election, is to stand outside Cross Street and wait for this chap to change the scores.
Gosh, so today we've kind of got graphic images and we had the swingometer, didn't we? And back then there's a guy poking his backside out behind a scoreboard.
Indeed.
That's brilliant, that's fantastic. Well, it really captures the moment of time in the city, a real feeling of the city. And I think that's probably going to lead us quite nicely on to this last object over here, which is a letter. So, from whom to whom?
Well, this letter was sent by a chap called P.H. Hamer. We have no idea who he was other than he was an exiled Mancunian living in South Africa, in Cape Town. And he's writing, and there was a very, very important event that took place on August 1959, and it was a very, very sad, traumatic moment for the city, because the Guardian decided to drop the word Manchester from its title. So it became the Guardian. As news spread, readers from around the world sent letters to Cross Street. Most of them were not happy. So you do get a few letters that are complimentary, you know, a rose by any other name will smell just as sweet, but you also got lots of people complaining and lots of people sort of waxing lyrical about what it meant to lose Manchester. So this chap here, he's writing and he talks about how back in the mists of time he himself worked in the Cross Street building. He talks about licking stamps in an insurance office, so very glamorous. And
that's
then
number 3 Cross Street, which is actually the photograph. Which
it
we've just been
is, so
looking
he
at.
was in that very building.
It ties the two things together nicely.
And he
doesn't
was there in 1959, so...
Just a few years later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and he talks about Manchester. He says it's not just one of Manchester's newspapers, but it also belongs to the whole world. And he's, hinting there that it's, it is read globally. It is a global presence. But what I like best about it is the way he sort of waxes lyrical about Manchester, and he describes in sort of really lovely detail what it means to him. So he raises, the spectre of Peterloo, that iconic moment in Manchester's history. But he also sort of ends it by saying, "What is it to me? The throb of your presses, painted barges on the canal near Whitworth Street, bales dropping from a height next to a nonchalant man on a lorry, the skyline of buildings by moonlight in a blackout, ocean-going ships far from the sea, and the Manchester Guardian."
Oh, great. I don't think we could top that, really. That's just a brilliant way to finish our look at these fantastic objects. So I'd like to thank Janette Martin very much indeed for coming and talking us through these, and hopefully you're going to enjoy the online version of our exhibition to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Manchester Guardian, and we'll look forward to seeing you here in the building very soon. Thank you.